Everyone, this is Rex Rock. There are few things that I love more than comic book villains, and specifically comic book movie versions of villains. So I'm going to discuss 4 of the worst interpretations of comic book villains in Marvel and DC comic book movies. The worst live action villains in my personal opinion. This is sure to become a black hole of nonsense and bad filmmaking, because when it comes to heroes, they're only as good as their villain counterparts. Okay, let's cut to the chase. Let it be known that I do not blame any of the actors playing these roles. I do blame the scripts, some bad CGI, some bad pacing, bad costumes that just do not meet expectations. Or even worse, the directors not being aware of how these characters should be portrayed. And way too much dependence on CGI to build a thorough 3-dimensional villain that has shades of humility, but are trying to fight their inner demons. Even revenge from deep-seated pain can make a villain be a 3-dimensional force of evil that is desperate for justice, but just can't get it. Every great villain has to have a motive and sadness because they know they are wrong, but they're tortured. They're truly tortured, and that's what makes them great villains. So let's discuss my most hated on-screen villains. The first is Steppenwolf from the DCEU. Who the hell is Steppenwolf? I've been reading comics since I was 4 years old. Nobody that reads DC Comics gives a flying crap about Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf was an acid rock metal band in the 1970s, in that crappy DC film Batman vs. Superman, Yawn of Justice. This has every power and no power, and has no real agenda besides fighting anyone for no apparent reason. He does not exist. We still don't know his powers and his limitations. We actually don't know really what he does after a whole 2.5-hour movie. He has no motive. DC could not have picked a more pointless villain. What are his powers again? I have no idea. His goals? Who knows? Maybe to join the 1968 band called Steppenwolf. I fucking hate this fucking movie. Written and directed by idiots that do not understand that a weak villain tanks a movie. Thanks a lot, DCEU. Go watch the TV show called The Boys. Homelander is the hero and the villain, and that's brilliant. The next worst villain is again from the DCEU movie franchise. Let's call it Half-Baked Doomsday from the DCEU. And once again, this is from Pawns of Justice, Batman vs. Superman. And appearing in a crappy movie, it is just disappointing. Beyond looking like a huge gray-green blubbery marshmallow, which Doomsday is supposed to not be, now he is concocted from the glands of General Zod, or I call it Genital Zod, because they must have gotten something of his DNA to make Doomsday, which actually never happened in the comic book, made it up. If you read any comic book, you'll instantly know that General Zod has nothing to do with Doomsday. Doomsday came from space through a morphing process where he would be born and killed thousands and thousands of times in a row, to a point where he is nearly invincible. Lex Luthor has nothing at all to do with the endless birthing and destruction of Doomsday. And Doomsday never looked like a gray-green marshmallow. I own and read these comics. I have copies of them all. A couple in triplicate, because I was so excited about the death of Superman. The DCEU movies made a mockery of him. The DCEU movies made a mockery of Doomsday. Additionally, I must add that I fucking hate General Zod. How can Superman be, quote, the last son of Krypton when he is always fighting or teaming up with Kryptonians? Please stop making fucking people from Krypton. Superman is nothing but the 9th son of Krypton, plus a fucking dog. Why would Krypton have a fucking dog? That just pisses me off. That makes no sense. I'll stop now, or I'll just keep on ranting. Dogs on Krypton. What the last son of Krypton? Give me a break. Moving on, the next shitty movie villain is Venom from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man series. Just to start, the real Eddie Brock from the comics was a bodybuilder named Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock was a freelance writer/photographer at the Daily Bugle, employed by editor-in-chief J. Jonah Jameson, just like Peter Parker, so they came from the same workspace. Somehow, Eddie Brock was fired, but he blamed Peter Parker for being dismissed. At the same point, Eddie Brock became connected with the Venom virus, or Venom symbiote, and used this to attack Peter Parker and Spider-Man. For some idiotic reason, they hired actor Topher Grace, who's as skinny as a wheat-thin cracker. Not a bodybuilder, just not physically fit. Topher Grace is as intimidating as a pair of women's small panties, and his acting was embarrassing. There is no way that he could pass a high school acting class, and that's why his career is dead now. I have to say that Tom Hardy is killing the role of Eddie Brock and Venom right now. I love these new Venom movies. I'd eat women's panties just to go to a new exclusive Venom movie premiere. Now we're going to talk about Rhino. Rhino from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3 has a very small sequence in the movie. He's basically just running at a bank truck, trying to, I guess, rob the bank. Rhino is not a costume, though. That's the problem. Rhino in Spider-Man 3 is more like a tank suit that he could pop in and out of. But that's not the case. Rhino is literally bonded to his body. He's a man in a biomechanical body structure. He can't just take the Rhino costume off and go to Burger King or grab his nutsack in a movie theater. He's a freak of mechanics, more like a cyborg. Where does he live? In the suburbs? Does he go to teacher-student meetings? The man is a monster, unchangeable, forever. He's deformed and broken. Once again, this character had no motive in Spider-Man 3. He's basically introduced as a former inmate that wanted to run over government trucks and get bank money, yet he doesn't really have any pockets, and he doesn't have like a helicopter, and he doesn't have like a reinforced truck that he can kind of drive in his Rhino suit. And he has nowhere that he'd even be able to put the money when he robs a bank or a bank truck. He is once again another pointless villain. And where does he keep his Rhino suit? In the garage? In a storage facility? Because in Spider-Man 3, it's a costume. He lacks character in this film. He's superficial at best. And at worst, the whole entire sequence with him is nonsense. So that's everything that I gotta say about Rhino in Spider-Man 3. Now we're gonna talk about Dr. Doom. Lastly, now let's discuss Dr. Doom from the last Fantastic Four movie in 2015. He was doomed to be boring and have zero character development. Somehow he gets stranded on a planet for decades that has nothing on it but rocks and more rocks. There wasn't any city or civilization or town or countryside or people or persons or dogs. They basically show that he lived his existence sitting on a rock throne on top of a mountain that looks like it was modeled by Ice Road Trucker, the TV show. I still can't remember why the Fantastic Four would give a shit to go and fight him. They could have just stayed at home and left him on his throne in some random dimension. That movie was whack, and Doom was so unimpressive. Plus, the motives and interests of Dr. Doom meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. Reed Richards should have just stayed at home boning Jessica Alba. No, sorry, it was Caitlin Mara or maybe Sarah Mara. Anyway, I liked her. I thought that she was pretty hot. So he should have just stayed home and boned her until she leaves him for a bigger, better deal. Because that's what hot girls do. I'm crying inside, but it's true. I doubt they used condoms. Anyway, I wouldn't use condoms with Kate Mara or Jessica Alba because it would just take away all of the sensation. So anyway, back to Doctor Doomed to be terrible. So anyway, we have no idea why they gave a crap about some dude in a random dimension that has no friends, he's not doing anything, there's no society, he's not building resources or infrastructure, he's absolutely doing nothing but sitting on a rock throne waiting for somebody to care. Dr. Doom also had no horticultural skills or farm hands or any reason to be alive. He sat on a chair all day. Maybe he was hungry, but there was nothing to eat because it was just rocks. Give this motherfucker some grilled chicken. The problem is that Dr. Doom was completely one-dimensional. He had no motive, no personality, even no real reason to be in the movie. That's why this is one of the hugest flops in 2015, and additionally this movie is known to be basically one of the top 3 modern superhero films with the lowest rating scores on everything from Rotten Tomatoes to audiences. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. This is Rex Rocks. Rex Rocks. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please like, comment, and subscribe.